everybody, it's Miss Fox here. So we are starting science today, and we are starting our Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs weather unit. So over the next 3 weeks, we're going to be learning all about weather. We're going to learn about different types of weather, what causes different types of weather, how to measure weather, and all that other cool stuff. So to kick off our weather unit, we are going to read Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs today. There is a fun little writing activity to do with this afterwards. And then to wrap up our weather unit in about 3 weeks, we're going to have a Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs party. And everyone who is at home or at school, everyone's going to get to participate. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So without further ado, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Now, I'm going to give you guys a heads up. This book has been around for a long time. Miss Fox remembers this book from when she was your age. The movie and the book, they're kind of similar, but they're also kind of different. So keep that in mind while I'm reading the book to you. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we each could eat, and Grandpa was doing the flipping. Seconds later, something flew through the air and headed towards the kitchen ceiling and landed right on Henry. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed at the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall-tale bedtime story he had ever told. Across the ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. Yep, so you guys can see, but look, if you notice the pictures are all in black and white, and now it's all becoming colorful. So it's kind of like, one of my kids last year told me, it's like the Wizard of Oz. Has anyone ever seen the Wizard of Oz? Where at the beginning of the movie, it starts out with Dorothy in Kansas and everything's in black and white. And then when she goes to the land of Oz, everything becomes colorful. So in most ways, it was very much like any other town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees, and gardens all around them. A schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food that they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. So how would you guys feel about that? Instead of us going to the grocery store or going out to eat or going through the drive-thru to get dinner, how would you imagine feeling getting dinner from the sky? Whatever the weather served, that is what they ate. But it never rained rain. It never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas. And sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. The people could watch the weather report on the television in the morning, and they would even hear prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople were outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way, they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were any leftovers, there usually were, people took them home and put them in the refrigerators in case they got hungry in between meals. So could you guys imagine bringing your own set of stuff to school every day so we can go outside and get our lunch from the sky? How funny would that be? Look at his umbrella with the soup. The menu varied, but at the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. For the lunch one day, frankfurters, already in their rolls, frankfurters are kind of like hot dogs, and their rolls blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby, and the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by a gradual clearing with a wonderful jello setting off in the west. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. So sanitation department are the people who come in like collect your trash every week. So the guys that are in the trash truck that come and collect everyone's trash and take it to the landfill. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the cats and dogs. They emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for people's flower gardens. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. Says the Chew and Swallow Digest, spaghetti ties up the town. One day there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day. The next day there was broccoli, but it was all overcooked and soggy. And the next day there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. And another day there was a pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going and they could barely find the rest of the meal that was stuck in the fog. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. And there were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds, some without seeds. There was white bread and rye bread and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it for a little bit, but it just stayed there and kept getting staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the whole town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of the weight, so they had to close school. So we've had to close school before because of snow and hurricanes. Can you guys imagine having to close school because there was a giant pancake on top of it? Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the next day ended with a stomachache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess, and there were seeds and pulp everywhere. So pulp is like the inside of a tomato, or like the inside of an orange. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by huge meatballs. Stores were boarded up and there was no more school for the children. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. So look at the giant donuts. And there's a burger and there's noodles. Look, he's got a noodle stuck on his head. The people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread sandwich style with peanut butter and took absolute necessities with them and set sail on their rafts for a new land. So necessities are things that you need to survive. So like food, water, clothing, their pets, families, that kind of thing. Anything that was important that they had to take with them. So see, they made a boat out of. There's cheese, there's bacon on top, a slice of pizza, and the bread. After being afloat for about a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses out of it for themselves. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest challenge they had was getting used to buying food at a supermarket. They found it odd that food was kept on shelves and packaged in boxes and cans and bottles. Meat that had been cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs, and no one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story, and then he remembered the goodnight kiss. So if you look at all their little houses. They look like little cottages and cabins that are built out of bread. But then if you notice about the pictures, it goes from color and it goes to back to black and white. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside of our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we can go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny because even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter on top, and we could almost smell the mashed potatoes. The end. All right, guys, I really hope you enjoyed today's story. So this is, like I said, this is going to go along with your writing project that you guys are going to do at home today, and I cannot wait to see what you guys come up with for your chew and swallow weather reports. Talk to you later. Bye.